Hello there. It's Obi-Wan Kenobi time, baby. We're here. I think since the announcement of new Star Wars from Disney, people have been clamoring for an Obi-Wan thing. Yeah, here we are. It's finally happened. It was announced a couple years ago. Ewan McGregor, the only thing people like about the prequels up until recently, now that we all love them apparently, he's back. He's doing an Obi-Wan thing. It's happened. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I don't think this show is bad. I don't think it's bad at all. It's just fine. It's serviceable. It's just like eating some fast food. You know what you're getting. You do. You go in there, you order your favorite thing, and it comes out exactly how you expect it to. Sometimes you get a surprise, but not always the surprise is good. This time around, I think it's a good surprise. It's like getting an extra chicken nugget in your like Happy Meal, you know? It's kind of cool. Okay, it's Obi-Wan. We want Ewan McGregor to come back. How are we going to do that? We're going to have to figure out how to fill the 19 years between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. Can we tell a compelling story in there? Have we always just thought that Obi-Wan remained on this planet watching a little Luke Skywalker? Yes, we did, I guess. Some people might have known other things from comics and stuff, but as far as the film goes, yeah, that's where he was. So, can we tell a story about him doing something? I guess so. And that's what we did here. And look, it's easy to digest this story. It is Logan, it is Shane, and Logan is just Shane, so it's just Shane. It's Unforgiven. It's the last outage of the cowboy doing one last mission to save the world as the world he knew falls apart around him or changes in front of his eyes. And that's not a bad thing to do in Star Wars. When it comes from a history of westerns and science fiction and stuff and just sci-fi and just samurai stuff, like, I get it. I get the need for Obi-Wan to do that last western story where the cowboy's going out on top of the last yeehaw. I get that. And I'm here for it. Like, I'm not against them doing that. I just don't think the culture was prepared for it to be so easy, you know? Like, I think it did surprise you in ways where you're like, oh, this is an interesting take, or this isn't where I expected this to go. But then it does exactly what you'd expect. And I think that's just a really interesting blend that goes both ways in terms of quality and bad. Because it's really interesting, but it's also not interesting at all, because you just know what's happening. And you do lose some of that tension because you know where the story has to end. You literally know exactly where the story has to end. And that's kind of a shame, because if you were open to maybe telling a more free and convincing story, you could experiment more and do more stuff. But I think for the most part, what Obi-Wan did was really strike the balance between this is where the guy needed to be and this is what the fans want the guy to be doing at this time period. It did that in a really compelling way. So Ewan McGregor is back. He's an older man who has some, white in his hair. He's gruff, he's grizzled, he's broken down. He's living as a hermit. And some people might not like this, but it's the truth. He's doing a lot of the stuff Luke does at the end of The Last Jedi. He realizes that it's time for this order to evolve and change. He's not willing to put himself out there to help other Jedi, to be a part of this world. He's actually scared and frightened of it. And I think that's such a compelling story to see, where if any character in the Star Wars universe was to be broken from the events of any previous installment, of course it's Obi-Wan. He does a lot of stuff in those prequels that sets up stuff with Anakin and Padme and the Clone Wars. He's involved in all of that. He's literally seeing a perfect world crumble into what it's going to be, and his brother turning to evil after nearly killing him. That's going to damage you. That's just going to mess you up for life. And that sucks, and it broke him, and it's very interesting to see that. And, now has to protect these two children from their father, because who knows what the world's going to do if they find these other Jedi that could potentially be born. And I'm like, this is an intense story. There's actually something to be said here. And I like this, like the world-weary Obi-Wan, seeing the world for what it is and not how it used to be. He's not like talking about old stories about being a Jedi. He's like, no, you come to me for help, I can't help you. Forget it, bury your lightsaber, move on, hide, and we can grow in some other ways, but you can't keep doing this. And then when he eventually returns to being the world of the Jedi, it's slowly and methodically, where he's like, I do not have a great connection to the Force. I am not good at combating anybody. I'm going to use a blaster because that's easier for me to do right now. He's slowly building back up to being the man everyone thinks him to be. And that is something we wouldn't see if this was a movie. And look, it's 6 episodes. I don't like the 6-episode format on Disney Plus because it hasn't worked well so far. But this one, I think you could have cut out a bit of it and made it into a 2.5-hour film, but that would have been lost in it. You know, just like those little moments of him freaking out, like, I can't connect to Qui-Gon. I can't find myself doing any of this. I need to be comfortable in myself, but I'm angry at the world. Like, we'd lose all of that energy if this was a movie. So in that aspect, I'm kind of glad it was a TV show. And I think his progression into where he ends up at the end of the series is actually very believable. It's authentically Obi-Wan. He is still happy. He's still charming. He still realizes he did good. And sometimes you have to let the world evolve. And he wants Luke to train a certain way. But at the end of the episode, he's like, okay, I understand now. This isn't what Luke needs. This is what he has to be. You'd think Luke would play a bigger part in this. He doesn't. I'm glad he doesn't, because you don't really need that. That energy is its own thing that we can talk about later. And we'll tell those stories when they come. A young Luke story, who needs it? But what I was surprised by, because I genuinely didn't think she'd have a bigger role in this, is the young little actress playing Leia Organa. This is essentially, we're going to rescue Leia and bring her back to her parents before the evil people come to kidnap her. It's kind of A New Hope-ish, but makes sense to me. They know this woman's important. We got to take her down. And look, there's a lot of criticisms about the acting on this show and some people involved with it. But that young lady playing Leia is the best actor on the show. She perfectly captures Carrie Fisher's energy in the facial movements and the way she reacts to the world. It is beautiful to see that. The way she treats the droids with respect is really cool. She is so commanding in every scene. She's willing to put herself out there in every scene. It's the perfect young Leia. I never thought we would see it done so eloquently, but we did. I was very impressed with that. It really made this a lot smoother, because if it was just a more annoying kid, ooh, this would have hurt. But the fact that she was Leia Organa, she acted like Leia, she behaved like Leia, she was Leia. That was impressive. That was beautiful. That actually helped sell this, because seeing, in matter of respect to Ewan for actually committing to it, just seeing like Padme's eyes in her eyes, I'm like, this, he's doing it. He's really committing that this is a girl he should connect with, but he can't because of what he's sworn himself to do for Luke. That's a really great story, and it actually plays perfectly well into what this world's creating. I really dug that. And look, this is, of course, on Disney Plus. There are going to be moments where everything looks bad, and that's just the technology they're using. And the really good moments with lighting and cinematography for Obi-Wan look way better than anything else in Star Wars. But the lows are some of the lowest, where it just looks like a bunch of people in a brownish, stonish room in rags, and it doesn't look that great. But when they use the colors of the lightsabers and the darkness and the fire and all these other just like constructs around them, everything looks spectacular and brilliant. Now, the camera movements aren't revolutionary. We're not taking big swings in terms of like the aesthetic or telling our story through a lens. We're essentially just seeing the tale of Obi-Wan. There's no tricks up the sleeve here. You know, sometimes The Mandalorian would take risks in terms of its camera work, and even the Book of Boba Fett tried to do some interesting things. I think this was the most simplistic just in terms of like the behind the scenes style, but the lighting is some of the best. When it uses the lighting perfectly, towards the middle of the season where you see like Darth and Obi-Wan first fighting in this show, it is spectacular and gorgeous. At the end episodes too, it looks amazing. It looks really good. Like, that was impressive. But at the same time, it doesn't look good sometimes, and that's just Disney Plus, isn't it? They really they're going to work this technology into the ground, or we're going to improve upon it. At this point, I think the volume is going to be either improved upon immensely or not improved at all, and we're going to start noticing its faults. I think we're going to be getting there sooner than later. Who's to say? But we'll see what happens. Darth Vader's in this, yes. This is a point of controversy for some reason. They couldn't have met because they'd meet at the end of A New Hope, and that's when all that happens. No, it's not. Vader doesn't say the last time they met. He's just like, I haven't felt this presence since. And now we know the since. And that since is a really good moment because that is Obi-Wan saying goodbye to his brother, realizing he can't save him, realizing this force of nature is the man he loved. It's intense, man, and it's really cool, and I really dug that. Those are some of the highlights. The way that Darth Vader is just portrayed as a force of nature. He's just a machine. And there's no Anakin in there. So much to the point that they just have an AI doing the James Earl Jones impression, which I don't like that. You guys know I'm not a fan of taking something that some human can do and destroying it. I honestly would have rather just didn't have him talk and maybe he's just intently breathing and doing fewer lines of dialogue, because the more Vader talked, the more you can notice it wasn't James and it was just some stupid robot. And I didn't like the way that sounded, and I didn't like the way it played at anything. But I love just like the parallels between Anakin's journey from this story to what he is in A New Hope, because he falls for the same trick from Obi-Wan in this series and in A New Hope, where he sacrifices himself to let everybody else escape. He does that twice, and I think that's brilliant. He almost does it like twice in the show, actually. And that's really cool. So Vader is used perfectly. I don't think he might be used a little too much, but it happens. Like, you're gonna do it. You want to see it back. And, like, I don't think Hayden Christensen needed to return. The fact that he did, I think, is more of it says more about him than it does about Lucasfilm, where he's like, I am willing to accept the faults that might have happened before, and I can accept that the world could accept me, and that's kind of cool. I like that more than just Lucasfilm, like, we'll pay you a lot of money. I think he's really come around on what this did for him, and he's accepting of it now. He is going to be in Ahsoka. I think they've talked about that. That's kind of interesting. I guess that's kind of fun. There is some flashbacks and a little bit of interesting looks for, Hayden coming back, which I do enjoy that. There's one moment in particular I did like, where Obi-Wan is just seeing, like, the robed version of Anakin on the side of a mountain. I think that was the best use. There was some de-aging or guys in their Attack of the Clones garb. It looked like a bunch of 50-year-old men playing characters in their 30s, and that could be a problem, but whatever. I'm fine with it. It was just cool to have him back, because that excites me. I'm glad he can accept what his role was in this universe and enjoy it. I think that's kind of cool. So let's talk about Reva for a second, because holy shit, did this really spark some controversy? And look, I almost don't want to broach this subject, but I feel like I have to. Star Wars is a political series. The literal first movie is taking down the Nazi regime. Like, are you fucking blind? That's what it is. And Star Wars fans have a problem when people of a certain ethnicity appear in these movies for some reason, because it doesn't make sense to them. All I'm going to say is, you could feel it the moment Reva stepped on screen, how she was going to be received to the public. I wish the voices that support her are more vocal than the ones that don't. But I commend Disney for actually taking the initiative to step forward and protect her, something they should have done for previous actors that have worked in their franchise. I respect them for that a lot. I also respect Ewan for making a video about it. That's really cool. Reva's character is pretty predictable. I think this is like a weird comparison, but it's kind of Jesse James and like Rob Fordish. Is it, what's his name? Yeah, like the Ford guy. It's kind of like that, where Jesse James is like just this revered person, and suddenly Ford comes in and you're just like, look at this next generation, and kills the previous one. Like, that's kind of the story I think they were going for, and I think it works pretty well. She's not a bad actress. Okay, Moses is a really talented actress, and I love seeing her in this because she did some phenomenal work. Especially towards the end, you feel the breakdown of her entire character. I really like it. It doesn't go into anywhere shocking, and that's okay. It's just really cool to see. And I like that. And again, that's the thing about Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's not shocking. You feel the plot beats working. You kind of get some origin to like, hey, this is where this comes in. This is how this guy gets that. And you're like, okay, that's kind of cool. Here's how they connect to this way. Here's what's happening with the Inquisitors at this time. They're still around, and there's just more Jedi running about, apparently. I didn't love the cameos from the people we know. I did not like Kumail. I didn't really like O'Shea. I wish they did more of both of them or did completely different stuff. I really didn't like Kumail's story because the jokes just didn't feel this world, and that was the problem. But there's some great stuff in there. Like Tala was fantastic. She was really fun to see. There's some good stuff in here. Bale comes back, and that's exciting. And Joel Edgerton, man, Baru and Owen get so much play, and they are badasses. They're so badass, I don't believe that they would be killed by the stormtroopers. Just saying, we're doing a great job of working around some stuff. It's a fine show. Again, you know what you're getting into. There is going to be a few surprises in there where you're like, well, that's kind of brilliant. That actually looks really good. As far as you're concerned, it's exactly what you need to eat, This is what you've been clamoring for since they were like, we could do stuff on Disney Plus, now let's get Ewan McGregor. This is what you wanted. Here it is. That's all there is to it. It's kind of interesting, kind of boring, but overall, I don't hate it. I just don't think it's brilliant. It's just exactly what it had to be. I really hope Andor surprises me. So Obi-Wan Kenobi, I'm going to give a 6 out of 10. Now, thank you guys for watching this review. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And as always, I will catch you in the next one. Have fun. Stay safe. Good luck. I know I did that. You get it. Bye.